This week in the Regency, it's about men's fashion, specifically men's facial hair fashions. And we're prompted to that by a really interesting ad in the Morning Post in the first week of June 1812. Caution to gentlemen. Counterfeits of Packwood's unequaled strops for giving a keen edge to razors, penknives, and surgeons' instruments are sold at many shops in town and country. On the labels of some, the maker falsely says, late partner with G. Parkwood. Others may be discovered by not having the printer's name, Abraham Clements Lane, at the bottom. Please to observe, no strop or box composition to renew them is genuine unless wrapped in a shop bill of and has the signature or label of W. Addis, successor to G. Packwood, 15 Grace Church Street, London, where they are sold wholesale and retail by the principal perfumers and hardware men in every town. W.A. alone is put in possession of his recipes for making the composition so celebrated for its wonderful effect upon steel, and by a trial of the real, you will soon be convinced of their superior effect and wear above all others. So clearly this is a counterfeiting matter, and that's easy to understand because trademarks weren't a thing. The first Trademark Act passes in 1875. So in 1812, if somebody wants to do a knockoff of your product, there are no laws stopping them. All you can do is warn your customers. But what exactly was it that they were selling? Well, it was a strop. And in order to understand a strop, you have to understand men's shaving processes in this time. Here is a shaving kit. It has on the left a strop. In the middle, the round thing is to make up the foam, the soap dish. It has a shaving brush, and then ascending on its legs is the straight razor with which you actually shaved. So this is what a straight razor looks like a bit up close. And you can see that it can be folded down to conceal the blade inside two side pieces. And this kept the blade sharp, but it also made it a really excellent weapon for people to carry around with them. And criminals often use them. Later on, of course, they became razor gangs in the 1920s. When people started passing knife laws against carrying knives, the razor came into its own as a weapon of the criminal class. This is what a strop looks like, and this is how this was the only photo I could find of someone apparently using a strop. Now, I have to say that my father was a butcher. In his early years, he was a meat inspector later, and he was very keen on having sharp knives, and he would strop. He would use a steel to bring the blade up, or a box, a composition that is a grindstone, and then he would strop it to get that final edge. This is not how you use a strop. This guy would end up, cutting his fingers off. You use it in a like that. And I still use a strop to finish off sharpening my knives. So they're still around. People still use them. And so straight razors are still very much a part of the barber shop. And a lot of barbers still swear by them as a way of giving somebody else a shave. I think there's a possibly apocryphal story of Charles III saying the only man he really trusted was his barber, because every day the barber had a sharp blade to his throat. Okay, so let's look at one more thing, which is the brush. And you can go and buy a shaving brush today, which looks almost identical to those from 1812, although the handle probably would have been either wood or ivory or horn then rather than porcelain. But it would have looked pretty much like this. And the hairs would have been taken from the same animal. So you can get synthetic ones now, but you can also still get the traditional badger hair shaving brush. I bought one for my father once, and I asked the guy in the shop, how do they get the hair? I was worried about the badgers. And he convinced me that they were shaved. Now, apparently that's true in Italy, but it may not be true in China, where most of these currently come from. So just in case you don't know what a badger is, this is what a badger looks like. So we hope very much that they are in fact shaved rather than slaughtered, particularly because badger meat apparently doesn't taste great, and so they're not eaten. So far we have the mechanics of shaving. When we're looking at the Regency, what's the fashion? What's the fashion in men's shaving? And the fashion is very much to be clean shaven. And this comes out of a kind of long process moving towards being clean shaven. And that was influenced really strongly by the Enlightenment, a movement, a philosophical and scientific movement that starts in the late 1600s and goes through to the early 1800s. And this is a philosophical idea about humans being of the mind, being of the spirit, not of the flesh. That's the relevant part of the Enlightenment as far as facial hair is concerned. And so we're supposed to rise above our animal passions and be rational. So it was considered lower class, basically, to have facial hair. The upper class was above all that sort of animal thing, don't you know? So, I thought I'd just check that. And I went and had a look at a lot of portraits from 1812. And, sure enough, this is the windswept look, by the way, that hair. And a beautifully tied cravat, I have to say. That's a very gorgeous neckcloth for Sir George Howland Beaumont, 7th Baronet in 1812. And you can see very much the look is educated and refined. We have here William Carr Beresford. He was an army guy. And you can see that he does have a little bit, it's hard to see on this painting, but I'm pretty sure that along the chin, he's got a little bit of a chin hair. Not so much a beard as an extended sideburn. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And here we have Sir Mark Isambard Brunel. This is Isambard Kingdom Brunel's dad. He was French. And he was very much the clean-shaven type. Not even very long sideburns. Sideburns became more popular a bit later on. So this guy does have a bit of hair, and it's true that in some contemporary accounts, military men were kind of allowed to have more hair. It was a thing, and in particular the moustache and sideburns were seen to be a kind of military flair. Possibly the military was encouraged to be a little bit more in tune with their animal instincts in order to stay alive, not sure. But 3 years after our 1812 ad, I had a look at this rather amazing painting of a particular battle during Waterloo. And when we look at this, we see although most people are clean shaven, we can see that the officers on both sides have got moustaches and sideburns. And some of the ordinary men too. Although I think it's notable that if we look here, the figure in the middle there, who is clearly the focal point and supposed to be representative of Britain, he's clean shaven. So we're still looking at the clean shaven man as superior. The other thing I thought would be interesting was just to look at Beau Brummell, because obviously he was one of the people that set fashion in this time, a little bit earlier perhaps than 1812. But here we have a caricature of him where everything is exaggerated, particularly, I have to say, the shape of his head. And we can see that he is indeed very much clean shaven and with hardly any sideburns. So the fashionable man was clean shaven. And I have to look at that neckcloth. Isn't that fantastic? I wish I knew enough about them to tell you which tie that was, but I'm sure it had a name. We're going to be talking about neckcloths in a later video. So the Regency gentleman was clean shaven, unless he was an army man, in which case he might have a moustache and sideburns, or possibly a little bit of chin hair. But it was okay for the lower classes to grow a beard, particularly if they were old. But in the Regency, it was very rare to find someone who wasn't in the army or the navy to have facial hair. A gentleman was clean shaven. That's This Week in the Regency. I'm Elizabeth Layden. I'll see you next week in the Regency.